Erica here. I've traveled to Japan a few times now, and I have some tips for you that's going to save you some time, some money, and some stress. Here are a few things that people do wrong when they're planning their trip to Japan. Number 1, not booking a hotel close to the train station. Exercise is great. Walking is great. I'm a physical therapist. I love walking. But if you really want to maximize your time while you're in Japan, make sure you book a hotel close to the biggest train station that you have in that area. If you're in the Tokyo area, there's a lot of subways everywhere, but the farther you are from the major train station in your area, the more connections that you're going to have to take, which is totally fine, but it is going to eat into your time. Also, if you're on the countryside or if you're in a less populated area, there's going to be less trains, subways, and buses, so then you're going to have to be walking a lot more.
Bless your soul.
Having a hotel close to the train station is going to be a lifesaver because you may be walking 20,000 steps and you might be a bit tired by then. Also, some hotels or ryokins in the countryside may have a shuttle service available, so be on the lookout for that. If you're traveling to Japan, be sure to check out my free beginner's guide to Japan down in the description below. It's a free download for you. I cover money and transportation and manners and some other tips that might be helpful. The next thing people do wrong is not reserving their train seats. If this is your first time in Japan, I highly recommend whenever you can to reserve your seat. So this is for the trains like a Shinkansen, like a bullet train, or an express train like the Narita Express, or maybe another rapid train. Just make sure you're reserving your seat because it's not like they're gonna run out of space for you, but more like it's gonna get you to the right place if you're sitting in the right car. This is really important because you may be sitting on a train and you may think that your train is going to be going to the destination that you want to go. However, sometimes some trains, they actually may decouple. So half the train goes this way, half the train goes this way. So now if you've been sitting on the wrong car, you may be going to a whole nother area and then you have to get off that train, figure out where you are, and then try to make your way back. It can be very confusing and time consuming. So whenever possible, try to reserve your seat on the train because it's going to put you on the correct car. If you're someone that's really experienced, just do whatever you want, get an unreserved seat, but do keep in mind that the unreserved seats may be on certain cars of the train, so you have to be on the lookout for that. The next thing is not paying attention to the overhead speaker on public transportation. When you're taking public transportation, be on the lookout, be listening to any overhead announcements. Usually the announcements are going to be in English, but this is going to be important because the trains, express trains, and Shinkansens all have English announcements, and sometimes there's updates to get off the train if you need a transfer or if the train needs to be serviced. So just keep your eyes and ears alert. The next thing people do wrong is not choosing the right time when arriving at the airport. If it's in your control and you're able to pick the arrival time at the airport, pay attention because if you arrive too late, a lot of the trains will have stopped running for the night. Most trains will run from 5 o'clock in the morning to midnight, so if your flight arrives really late, you might not be able to catch that last train or catch a bus in order to get to your hotel. You can pay for a taxi to get to your hotel, but a lot of taxis can be really expensive, and if your party is a little larger, you're gonna have to get 2 taxis. A lot of people end up spending their night in the airport, so this is just something to consider if you have the power to choose your arrival time. The next thing that people do wrong is not doing their research before going to Japan. Now, if you're watching this video, great job on your Japanning. You're going to be just fine. Also, take a look at my Japan playlist below because I'm going to have a lot of tips for you there and you're going to have an awesome time in Japan. There are some vacations where you can literally plan nothing and it's going to be fine. And a lot of places is actually better to do that. But trust me, if you want to maximize your Japan trip, you must do your research or you're going to be in for a rude awakening. I know of a few people that got to Japan without doing any research prior and they only did a few things and they felt like they stood in line for most of their trip. They said they should have done their research more because they didn't feel like they got the best experience. That's so sad, huh? So this means doing your research on transportation types, transit cards, money, manners, and Wi-Fi to name a few. I cover these in my free guide, but also be sure to check out my Japan videos below because they're going to be covering itineraries and how to get transit cards, how to use the subway, and more helpful videos. Your Japan experience will be so much better if you just put in a little bit of work before you go. Also, if you need an organized way to store all of your research and Japan funtivities, take a look in the description below for my free travel budget and planner. So here I have a lot of tabs like hotel and transportation tabs, budgeting tabs, packing lists, and itinerary planners. It's free and is my gift to you for happy travels. Another thing that people do wrong is not figuring out their Wi-Fi before getting to Japan. When you're in Japan, you need to stay connected as much as possible to the interwebs because Japan is a whole nother world. Unless you are a pro, you may struggle without the internet because that's how you're going to get transportation or find your way to your hotel or your restaurant. Don't just say, let me figure it out when I get there. No. What I recommend is getting a digital eSIM. Sometimes I do pocket Wi-Fi if I have a few devices with me and I have to use my laptop and bring that everywhere, but the last couple trips I've just been using a digital eSIM and it's been awesome. If you don't know what an eSIM is, an eSIM works by letting you connect to another mobile network without having to swap physical SIM cards. Most newer phones have an eSIM option. For me, I've been using Airalo eSIM and it's been awesome. Also, this video is not sponsored. They have no idea who the heck I am. I like using eSIMs because it's a lot cheaper than getting an international phone plan, and it's also cheaper than getting a pocket Wi-Fi. For me, it was about $18 for 10 gigabytes, and that was perfect for my 10-day trip. When I used Airalo, it worked all over Japan, even in the countryside, and all I had to do was just download the app, and it was super easy to follow the instructions. Some eSIMs are not that great in other countries because it really depends on the mobile network of that country, but Japan is so high-tech that the eSIMs worked amazing. If you are getting a digital eSIM, make sure you read the instructions before you get to Japan because a lot of times you're going to have to download something or you have to make sure you have a strong Wi-Fi connection, and you're not going to have that over in Japan if you didn't get your eSIM. The next thing that people do wrong is worrying too much about social media and what everyone else is doing. Literally, just go there just to explore and have fun. Go on a walk, go explore. Literally everything in Japan is so awesome. I just feel like we all need to spend a whole year over there just to slowly explore. That is my favorite thing to do, but I know it is hard because you want to get so much in and there's so much fear of missing out. Social media makes it seem like you are missing out on everything, but my advice to you is just to walk around and explore and just go have fun. The food in Japan is just delicious everywhere, so really if you just walk into a restaurant, you're gonna be not disappointed. I've been to a lot of viral places and it was filled with so many tourists and there were hardly any locals there, and it definitely wasn't worth the hype. It also wasn't worth the line. So now I just like to walk around slowly and find stuff on my own. If you're like, Erica, that's great, but for me, I need a guide and I need some help and some tips and I just get FOMO, then that's fine too. If that is you and you need logistics and you need guides and you need some places and some ideas of what to do, then I do have my Japan trip itineraries linked down below. And if you want to check out everything that I did, this will include my trip funtivities, my favorite hotels, lots of yummy food, and cool finds. It's through Google Sheets and all the places are linked in the Google Maps so you know where to go. You can also check out my travel vlogs for some idea, but in the end, just have fun and don't worry too much. The most important things for you to know is just transportation and money and like the logistical tips, just so you know how to get to places so then you can have a fun time. The next thing people do wrong is not downloading apps before getting to Japan. When you get to Japan, there's so much excitement and so much to do and you're overstimulated and it's just so wonderful and you're hungry. So the last thing you want to be doing is trying to download all these important apps like translation apps or transportation apps, because what if the connection's not that good, or what if your eSIM's not working for some reason? Just do the boring stuff you need to do before you get to Japan and you're gonna have a grand old time. Some of the apps I recommend downloading, and you can get them for free, is translation apps like Papago or Google Translate. I do enjoy Papago and I use Google Translate as backup, but what you do is you take a picture, you pick the language that you want, and it'll just translate it for you. And then for transportation apps, I do like Google Maps a lot because I feel like it's pretty accurate. As far as it goes for activities, I do like using Klook a lot because it has all my QR codes. Also, this video is not sponsored. Also, if you're just looking for some fun things to do, just scroll through Klook and you'll find a bunch of things to do. I am a big Klook super fan because I can get a lot of activities through here. The next thing people do wrong is not using luggage delivery. Japan is incredible when it comes to transportation, and this includes bags and luggage. Why carry your heavy bags around when you don't have to? Instead, what you can do is just use luggage delivery. So when we were in Japan, what I did was I had to go from Tokyo over to Osaka. So what I did was I went to the hotel staff and I said, would you be able to do luggage delivery and bring this to Osaka? She said yes. She called the hotel on the other side. I gave them the information. She did the paperwork for me. It was only $15. It was so worth it because my bag was kind of big and I wanted to put so many souvenirs in there. When I got to Osaka, my bag was already in the hotel room and it was just amazing service. One thing to note is luggage delivery does take 1 to 2 days. So let's say it's Tuesday and you're gonna be arriving in Osaka on Thursday. You're gonna have to give them your bag on Tuesday. So that means you won't have your bag for most of Tuesday or Wednesday or the beginning of Thursday. So that's something to consider when you're using luggage delivery. If you're only going to be in Japan for a week or so, I wouldn't recommend using luggage delivery because you may not see your bag that often. Instead, what I recommend is just doing carry-on only. I also recommend getting an Apple AirTag so you could put that in your checked bag so you can keep track of your luggage whenever you're in a different part of Japan. This will give you peace of mind and then you can enjoy yourself more. The next thing people do wrong is not packing lightly when visiting Japan. If you travel to Japan with just a carry-on and a personal item, trust me, you're gonna be feeling so free. For me, I'm an overpacker, but I did decide to do carry-on only for my last trip to Japan, and I felt like a traveling goddess. I felt so free and amazing. We went to 4 different hotels, and we had a blast traveling all over Japan because we were so mobile. We were using the coin lockers, we were going to Disneyland. Also, when you bring too much stuff, you won't be able to bring back as many souvenirs and beauty items that you want. Usually, I pack a big duffel bag with me in my carry-on, and then I do my big shopping the last day of the trip. So I always strategize where I want to end my trip based off of my shopping. If you need some souvenir ideas, I'll link below my beauty haul and my random cool finds below. And if you're an overpacker like me and you want to see how I did Japan with just a carry-on, then I'll link that below in the description as well. If you have any questions, feel free to message me on Instagram or you can leave a comment below. All right, have a great time in Japan. Bye!